Newsfirst at 9. Headlines.
A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Katharina Chang from the Newsfirst Centre here in Colombo. Let's take a look at your headlines. 2 parliamentary employees have been taken into custody for fraud. Bypass and open heart surgeries at 3 major hospitals at a standstill as employees go on strike. Cecil Diabru appointed the acting president of the Court of Appeal. Transporting animals prohibited in 7 districts due to the spread of foot and mouth disease. And join me later on in news with a Newsfirst exclusive with renowned author Vadika Phillips for the international release of her new book. Let's now cross over to the main news desk for a comprehensive details of these stories and much more.
Yes, thanks so much, Kathy. We'll take it over from here. I'm Madhushka Balasurya.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. Let's start off with a look at the top story for today. On our top story, open heart surgeries and bypass surgeries at 3 key hospitals, including the National Hospital in Colombo, have come to a halt owing to a workers' strike. Cardiovascular perfusionists have commenced the strike action, citing 2 demands.
Cardiovascular perfusionists are those with specialized health training who use the heart-lung machine during open heart and bypass surgeries. Perfusionists are specially trained to operate the heart-lung machine as per the surgeon's instructions during surgery.
Through the use of the heart-lung machine, cardiovascular perfusionists keep the patient alive during surgery. It is this serious responsibility that we have been entrusted with. Heart surgeries cannot be conducted without us. For the entire duration of the surgery, sometimes for 3 or 4 hours, the life of the patient is in our hands and we do what is necessary to keep them alive.
ජාතික රෝහලේ ස්ථාපනය කර තිබෙන හෘද ශල්‍යාගාරය ඉදිරිපිට තමයි මම මේ රැඳී සිටින්නේ.
I am standing near the cardiothoracic operating theatre of the National Hospital. The operating theatre is inoperational due to a strike launched by the workers.
වැඩ වර්ජනය. ඒ හේතුවෙන් අද වන විට ජාතික රෝහලේ හෘද ශල්‍යාගාර අක්‍රිය වෙලා.
On average, 4 heart surgeries are performed every day at the 2 cardiothoracic operating theatres at the National Hospital. Since a single operation can last more than 5 hours, the number of surgeries per day has been limited to 4. As a result, in order to undergo heart surgery, patients have to be on the waiting list at the National Hospital for over a year.
And due to this strike, there is a effect on especially open heart surgeries. Of course, whatever the emergency surgeries are being performed, and those who are on waiting list, the surgeries are somewhat postponed.
33 cardiovascular perfusionists are serving at 4 key hospitals across the island. In addition to the National Hospital in Colombo, these surgeries are also performed at the Kandy General Hospital, the Karapitiya Teaching Hospital and the Lady Ridgeway Children's Hospital. As a result of the strike action, about 20 surgeries have been halted at these 4 hospitals daily.
We have mentioned in all documentation that in the event of emergency surgery, we will report for duty. At the same time, officials have been assigned for emergency services at these 4 institutions.
The cardiovascular perfusionists are staging this strike action, demanding an allowance considering the unique nature of their occupation and a permanent overtime allowance based on seniority.
We hold the Ministry of Health fully responsible for this. There is no point in continuing to send letters and documents everywhere and waste time. If the circular is issued now, we will immediately stop this action.
ඉල්ලීම සාධාරණ වුණාට අපි මේ තියෙන මේ රාජ්‍ය තන්ත්‍රයේ තුල තියෙන ක්‍රමවේද උඩ
Though the request can be justified based on the procedures adhered to by the state, it is impossible to grant this request at once. Such things reach us after a certain procedure. Therefore, there will be a slight delay. This is not a decision taken by an institution. This is a decision that needs to be taken by several interconnected institutions, including the Treasury and the Ministry of State Administration. This may take us a few months. Once permission is granted, they will receive it.
කීපයක් ගත වෙනවා. නමුත් මේවට මාස කීපයක් ගත වුණත් ඒ අනුමැතිය දෙන දවසේ ඉඳලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒකට හිමිකම් ලබනවා.
Continuing your local news, 2 employees attached to Parliament were arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department for allegedly defrauding money. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rona stated that they had defrauded the money from the Parliamentary Staff Thrift Society Fund.
The police media spokesperson stated that one individual had defrauded 4.5 million rupees while the other had defrauded 6.5 million. They were arrested after an investigation conducted by the CID. The 2 arrested suspects will be produced before the Hulstorf Magistrates Court today and will be remanded till the 7th of March.
In other local news, the police say that they have received detention orders to detain and interrogate UNP Western Provincial Council candidate Royce Fernando, who is a suspect in the theft of cash and jewellery from a shop in Negombo for 90 days. The police say they have arrested 3 suspects in connection with the robbery thus far. Meanwhile, UNP parliamentarian Sujiva Senasinghe commented on the matter today. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
I heard that he is under a detention order. And I don't know under what law and under what circumstances that they have placed him under a detention order. And we see so many murderers, thugs, extortionists freely roaming around the country without any problem. But he's a candidate who has given actually the backbone of the Negombo area. Under the advice of Honorable Sajith Premadasa and Ranjit Madhubandara, they called me in the morning and I informed them that I'll be coming and meeting Mr. Royce Fernando, and I pledged that I will give the fullest support legally and as well as politically for him to win this election. So we are looking forward to take some legal steps in the future.
Now, a death of a prisoner prompted protest opposite the magazine prison yet again today. The protesters demanded that the recommendations of the LLRC be implemented with regard to prison inmates as well.
Vishwalingam Gopidas, a British national who was serving a prison sentence at the Valikada prison, was found dead in a prison washroom recently. The Commissioner General of Prison stated that the post-mortem inquiry revealed that the cause of death was a heart attack. Demonstrators demanded that the government pay more attention to the needs and activities of the prisoners.
This is not the first death that has occurred at this prison. Dilrukshan died here prior to this. Nimal Ruben died here. Now Gopinathan is gone. It cannot be called a natural death. The government says it was a heart attack. The government may say in the future that he forgot to breathe. But because it is the government, we cannot accept this. Please provide a solution to the problem of political prisoners as stated in your LLRC report.
Meanwhile, the body of Vishwalingam Gopidas was taken to his residence in Jaffna today. The final rites are due to take place on Sunday.
At a media briefing convened today, UNP parliamentarian Dr. Harsha De Silva said that the government should explain reports that preparations are being made to arrest him.
It has been stated on various websites today that the Defence Secretary has issued an order to the Head of State Intelligence, DIG Chandra Nimal Vakishta, to take me into custody. It is stated on these websites that the reason for me to be arrested is that I informed the people that the Colombo Port City project is being undertaken by the China Communication and Construction Company, which has been banned by the World Bank. I do not believe for an instant that in a democratic nation, when an opposition parliamentarian places the truth before the people, it can be considered an action that incites the people. I expect that the government will explain whether these reports are true or false.
Welcome back to the news. Sisiradi Abru today took oaths as the acting president of the Court of Appeal before the president.
He took his oaths before the president this morning at Temple Trees. The position was left vacant after the demise of Court of Appeals President Sri Skandaraja. Sisiradi Abru, who took his oaths today as the acting president of the Court of Appeal, also served as a Court of Appeals judge.
Meanwhile, the President inspected the Polduva bridge that leads to Colombo from the Parliament roundabout in Sri Jawardanapura and the first phase of the newly constructed roadway. The President then instructed the Minister and Secretary of the Ministry of Ports and Highways to declare the road open from that moment immediately. Meanwhile, Air Force Commander Air Marshal Harsha Bevikrama is due to retire from duty tomorrow. Air Force media spokesperson Air Commodore Andrew Vijay Surya stated that Air Vice Marshal Kolita Gunatilaka, the incumbent Chief of Staff of the Sri Lanka Air Force, will be appointed the commander with effect from the 28th of this month.
Moving on to other local news. Speaking at a media meeting held in Rana this morning, UMP parliamentarian Sajith Premadasa made the following remarks.
I wish to ask this government, which keeps chanting the mantra that they are developing education and are creating educated people, why is it that there are hundreds of thousands of parents in the country today who have been driven to despair because they cannot get their children enrolled into grade 1? My friends, I wish to ask how it is that we are going to bring forth a miracle in education in this country when children cannot be enrolled into schools.
Meanwhile, the new manifesto of the Janata Vimukti Peramuna was presented to the chief prelates today.
The leader of the JVP, MP Anura Kumara Dissanayaka, visited the chief prelate of the Malwatu chapter of the Siam sect at the Malwatu Mahaviharaya in Kandy this morning. JVP International Affairs Secretary Somavansa Amarasinghe was also present. The chief prelate also presented Anura Kumara Dissanayaka with a memento. Today there is an official opposition and a true opposition. The United National Party represents the official opposition. But today the people have begun to understand that they are not carrying out the duty of the opposition in the face of the problems and crises that have arisen in the country. On one hand, most of those in the UNP are engaged in transactions with the government at various levels. Some have businesses and others have contracts. Thereby they cannot carry out the duties of the opposition today. Thereby, although the UMP is the official opposition in the country, it is the JVP that is carrying out the duties of the true opposition.
The moment has come to create a major force that should unite everyone. We need not have a wall between us. If there is a wall between us or any other obstacles between us, then we must overcome these obstacles. We must defeat those and build a force, an alternative force in this country.
Subsequently, the representatives of the JVP led by Anura Kumara Dissanayaka made the chief prelate of the Ramanya chapter, the most venerable Napane Pemasiritera.
The Democratic Party convened a media briefing today. Views were expressed at this media briefing on the allegations levelled at the party and its leadership by its former media coordinator Sanjeeva Samarasinghe at a media briefing convened yesterday.
If you look at it from an administrative perspective, he led a very fraudulent and indisciplined life. We came to realize this and removed him. Now the dogs are barking while the caravan proceeds. Just because we show due consideration to a leader and respect him, how does that leader become a dictator? The election campaign is going ahead powerfully. If there is someone of ours that they can catch and get to say something to the media after paying them, they will. We know that politicians in the government are behind this. A distasteful statement has been made. We condemn and reject this.
ප්‍රකාශයක් කළා තියෙන්නේ අපි වතාරේ හෙලා දකින්නවා ප්‍රතික්ෂේප කරනවා මේ මාධ්‍ය සංදර්ශනය මේ නාට්‍යයේ අධ්‍යක්ෂවරු කවුද මේකේ නළුව කවුද මේකේ තිරරචක
Who is the director of this drama and media show? Who are the actors? Who are the screenwriters? Who was behind this? How much money was spent on this? What vehicle did he come in? What vehicle did he go in? Who coordinated with him? As journalists, if you look into the thugs that were there, then you will understand with what intention this was done. This journey to democracy will not be stopped because of Sanjeewa Samarisinghe's crocodile tears. No matter how much the dogs bark, the caravan will journey to the end.
සමරසිංහ මහතාගේ කිඹුල් කඳුළු වලින් ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදයේ සඳහා යන මේ ජනතා ගමන ආපසු හරවන්න බෑ. බල්ලෝ කොච්චර බිරුවත් තවලම ගමනාන්තය දක්වා යනවා.
While the national organizer of the Democratic Party, Captain Gayan Vithanagi, was present at this occasion, along with Indika Bantara, who levelled allegations of financial fraud at him during the media briefing convened by Sanjeewa Samarisinghe yesterday.
Now, in a report titled Sri Lanka Suppressing Calls for Justice, international human rights watchdog Amnesty International has reiterated its call for the UN to establish an international investigation into alleged violations of international human rights and humanitarian law by all sides in the Sri Lankan conflict.
Amnesty International has called for a credible and independent international investigation into allegations of crimes under international law committed by Sri Lankan government forces and allied armed groups as well as the LTTE. The organization also calls for the UN to conduct close ongoing international monitoring of the human rights situation in Sri Lanka, including of the effectiveness of any domestic accountability processes. In its report, Amnesty International also calls on the Sri Lankan authorities to publicly acknowledge that attacks, including threats, detention, harassment, intimidation and killings have been committed against journalists, lawyers, human rights defenders, civil society activists and others for exercising their right to freedom of expression. Furthermore, Amnesty International calls on the Sri Lankan government to cooperate fully with the UN Special Procedures mandate holders by responding positively to outstanding requests for invitations to visit Sri Lanka and by providing them with unfettered access.
In more local news, Russian ambassador to Sri Lanka Alexander Karshava says that Russia and like-minded countries will defend the interest of Sri Lanka in the international arena. He made this statement at an event held this evening in Colombo.
A special event was held to mark the 57th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic ties between Russia and Sri Lanka, which also coincided with the 55th anniversary of the Sri Lanka-Russia Friendship Society. A distinguished gathering, including Minister of Higher Education S.B. Dissanayake, were present at the occasion.
3 weeks from now, in Geneva, again, those countries which are not that friendly towards Sri Lanka as Russia is, will be trying to present to Sri Lanka certain scores. But please rest assured that Russia, together with other like-minded countries, will defend the interest of our very close friend, this lovely country, Sri Lanka.
Now, on a related note, a discussion on national reconciliation, where are we now, took place last evening in Colombo. The discussion was organized to look back on the achievements and failures on what has been done in promoting healing and reconciliation. Let's have a listen to a few excerpts from the discussion.
The Catholics of Northern Ireland have not asked for any inquiry into Bloody Sunday, still less an international inquiry. And there was no fog of war on Bloody Sunday in Londonderry in 1972. Only one side was armed, the British paratroopers. It was broad daylight. The only casualties were civilians. It took 28 years and 2 commissions of inquiry by one of the richest countries on earth to produce a report, and not one person has been locked up as a result. Many members of the British paratroopers who were there that day have been given Queen's honours. These are the societies that want us to have an international inquiry 5 years after the end of a war against a brutal Nazi-like enemy, the Tigers. So there will be an acceleration of the tendencies towards political confrontation in the South, as they would be and they have been in any country, especially a smaller country which feels itself under siege. To the extent that the external threat diminishes, the internal contradictions mature, as we saw in Baliberi. And the collision between the hardliners within the state and outside, and those outside and within the Northern Provincial Council and Tamil politics, will be inevitable as a result of this external imposition.
Look at our legislature. We talk of elections. We talk of elections soon. We talk of two-thirds majorities. What kind of representation do we have in Parliament? If we contrast legislatures of the past, there's an appalling gap with regard to the manner in which the legislature is operating. In what kind of polity? And the interesting thing is nobody knows how this became possible. Lawyers say they don't know what case, but crossovers are permitted. And crossovers mean that the government which doesn't get a two-third majority from the electorate ends up with a two-third majority in Parliament. And that two-third majority has meant the 18th Amendment.
For the first time in history, international publishing powerhouse HarperCollins has tied up with a Sri Lankan author to publish a breathtakingly Sri Lankan novel. Rena's Prophecy, a coming-of-age tale wrapped up in adventure and fantasy, authored by Radhika Philip, will be launched worldwide on the 28th of this month. Newsfirst Katharina Chang met with the author Radhika Philip to find out more about this book.
I would love to know as to how did you come and write such an inspirational book such as this?
It was 2010. The country was very much just post-conflict, as it were, and the recovery process was, I think, traumatic. I volunteered in the North, so I guess I saw certain things that made me question what human beings can do to each other. One day I saw a crow make friends with my baby and talk to my baby, and it started from there, me questioning what more there was than that we know, and what we've been socialized to think in a particular way. That's where it came from. It's a different place. I can't explain it. It was something bigger than me. I started to see the beauty in the smallest of things, the interactions between animals and humans, and also animals and animals within different species, and I thought there was something really magical in that, and I thought about it a lot would be the understatement, until I had a story in mind. I couldn't stop the story, actually.
So this is the first time that a publishing giant like HarperCollins has come to Sri Lanka to launch a book authored by Sri Lankan. How does it feel?
It came about that traditional Sri Lankan way of calling up someone you know and asking if they know someone who knows someone who knows someone. Publishing houses don't take unsolicited manuscripts from anyone because I guess they're inundated. You have to come in through a literary agent. So I had called a friend of mine in India because I knew that all the major publishing houses were positioned in India rather, and asked him if he knew anyone who was a literary agent. He did. I met the literary agent shortly thereafter. He signed me on, and then he passed the manuscript to HarperCollins and Penguin, and I had an immediate connection with the commissioning editor of HarperCollins, and she really fought for the integrity of the book, and she told me there'd never be any forced cuts or edits, that it would always be the integrity of the book would be preserved. And so that's why I went with HarperCollins, and they've been fantastic. They made it a much better book.
Now remember, you can log on to www.newsfirst.lk for the entire interview with Radhika Philip and for more details on Rena's Prophecy itself. But now moving into more local news, The Hindu reported today that Indian Customs and Central Excise enforcers forced a Sri Lankan Airlines flight to land at the Trivandrum airport 20 minutes after takeoff yesterday. 3 passengers on board flight UL162 were arrested on the charge of attempting to smuggle red sanders, a fragrant wood, concealed in their check-in baggage. According to Indian media reports, 100 kilograms of contraband wood was discovered in a black synthetic material, which seemed impervious to X-ray scans. Indian Customs enforcers described the method of operation as relatively new and said it could be a trial run to smuggle more valuable contraband.
The Department of Animal Production and Health says that the transportation of animals has been prohibited in 7 districts due to the spread of the foot and mouth disease, which is transmitted via a virus. The Director General of the department, Dr. Kumara De Silva, says that slaughter and sale of cattle, pigs and goats has been prohibited in the respective districts. The Director General of the department made this remark at a media briefing convened in the auditorium of the department in Gatame, Kandy.
Silva, the Director General of the Department of Animal Production and Health, went on to say that around 3,700 animals of the total cattle population in Sri Lanka, which is around 1.5 million, have been infected by the virus that causes the foot and mouth disease. He went on to say that from among them, 79 cattle, 1 pig and 1 goat had died after being infected by the virus.
The law had prohibited the transportation of animals dead or alive and animal products. This law is in effect in the districts of Ampara, Anuradhapura, Vavuniya, Mullaitivu, Jaffna, Puttlam and Trincomalee. Thereby the sale of meat will be prohibited and sales places will have to be closed. Slaughterhouses will have to remain closed until the department grants its approval to reopen. We have informed this to the Inspector General of Police and other respective institutions.
The Director General added that they are planning to implement this law in the Polonnaruwa district, where the virus is reported to have been spreading.
What is happening today? When we give elections, the opposition says they don't want them. Why? Because they are assured of defeat. They ask us why we are holding elections.
Who is the opposition? Is it Ranil? Is it the JVP? Is it Sarath Fonseca? There is a debate about the opposition as well. A change is needed, but where is the opposition?
For some misfortune, the opposition only sees the wrong side of things. When there is rapid development, they say that future generations will become debtors.
The people don't have the necessary economic background to live. What is the government's economic policy? The economic policies of this government are not centered around production. When you spend 500 rupees at a shop, you spend more on taxes than the actual goods.
We are trying to save the people of this country from the fast that is being created by politicians who distribute goods. We have seen leaders in our district who have always used such tactics to fool you. Use this election to teach them a lesson.
Now, meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Freedom Party convened a media briefing today.
අපි නොදියුණු රටක ඉඳලා මැද රටක් බවට පත් වෙනකොට ඒ
When we are transforming from an undeveloped country to a middle-income country, problems will arise. These are not problems with poverty. These are new problems and new questions that crop up with development. I will take one example. There's a gym in every village, isn't it so? There's a beauty salon in every village. Women go to the wedding after getting someone else to drape the sari for them.
තමන්ගේ සාරිය වෙන ගෑණියෙක් ලකෝ අඳගෙන තමයි මගුල් ගෙදරට යන්නේ නැද්ද මෙන්න මේවා තුල
Through these there has been an effect on the cost of living, what I call a change in lifestyle. It is true that we cannot maintain this lifestyle. It is difficult.
ජීවන රටාවේ වෙනසක් තියෙනවා ඒ ජීවන රටාව අපිට දරා ගන්න බැරි බව ඇත්ත අමාරු
Ranil Wickremesinghe is of the opinion that the benefits the people should receive with the end of the war is a decrease in the price of milk powder, a decrease in the price of rice, and that the government should bear the cost of this and provide goods for cheap. Those are the post-war benefits that Ranil Wickremesinghe thinks about. But that is not what we are saying. We have taken the cost of the war and invested it in all development activities. Roads for the village, electricity for the village, water for the village. We have provided these facilities. We have created programs which create new jobs for the people and creates alternative avenues of income. These are the factors of development. That is what we have to say.
බලගත් පක්ෂය ආණ්ඩු පක්ෂය බලගත් අපේක්ෂක ආණ්ඩු අපේක්ෂකයෝ ඔවුන් අතර දැවැන්ත තරගයක් තියෙනවා.
The most powerful party is the government. The powerful candidates are government candidates. There is a major contest between them. Thereby it is possible that election laws may be broken between them. But what are these laws that are being broken? Either they have gone in a procession or staged a meeting elsewhere. Thereby, none of this will affect democracy and the people's right to exercise their franchise freely. Unlike in the JR era, the Premadasa era and the Wijetunga era, politicians in this country are going before courts. They are being taken to the police. They are being arrested. I cannot say whether they are being punished, but all laws are being enforced against them.
Meanwhile, group leader of the Colombo district for the UPFA, Udaya Gammanpilla, convened a media briefing today.
Each Indian candidate has to reveal the finances used for the elections. In America, they have taken it a step further and they reveal who gave the money. Most countries have a limit on the amount of money that can be spent. They have a certain budget. Thereafter, they have to present this budget to the election office. This time, I plan to introduce this system in Sri Lanka through my website, which will present my election budget. The media too can obtain this information.
Still in the political sphere, UMP Colombo district candidate S.M. Marika expressed the following views at a meeting held in Ballampitiya yesterday.
Tomorrow or the day after, the government will come here and try to deceive you, saying that the parliament is in the hands of the alliance, as are the other provincial councils and the local government institutions. They will say that there is no point in voting for the UNP. This is a deception. The people of the Colombo district, who are the most intelligent in this case, must show their opposition to the government and stand against this injustice. As a journalist who has seriously questioned politicians on the problems of the people, if we don't step out, there is no point in the media. We cannot say we are empathetic people, and there would be no point in questioning the affairs of politicians.
Attorney at law and candidate of the United People's Freedom Alliance for the Gampaha district, Susara Dinal, stated that English education is vital for employment in the private sector. He stated this at an event held in Negombo today.
English education is vital to be able to apply for vacancies that come up in the private sector. Building up confidence and personality is also important. We have commenced educating the youth regarding this. Even today, we will be gifting certificates for completing this course. We hope this will enable the youth to find employment in the private sector while also creating the backdrop that will empower them to face the new society.
Now today's U report is filed by U reporter Vajira Buddhika from Pulgoda.
An accident occurred when a three-wheeler and a truck collided head-on at 1:30 this afternoon along the Hangwalla-Kirinda Valley Road. A female passenger in the three-wheeler sustained injuries in the accident and was hospitalized.
The annual ACCA Sustainability Reporting Awards for 2013 took place last evening in Colombo. The awards are presented to acknowledge the commitment undertaken by institutions and organizations on sustainability reporting.
The gala event was graced by the British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, John Rankin.
But governments, even acting together, can't meet all of the challenges by themselves. We need everybody. Individuals, other public sector organisations and private businesses to be involved. By promoting environmentally friendly practices, companies here in Sri Lanka can play their own significant role in preserving the beauty and environmental security of this country. And we can also help to preserve Sri Lanka's still vital agricultural sector at the same time as developing new areas of business within a growing economy. And British companies stand ready to work with your companies in this field and in promoting renewable technologies.
Organizations and institutions that demonstrated commitment to sustainability reporting were recognized under 6 categories and were presented with awards.
Into some sports-related news, the 7th round of trials for Super Fighter, Sri Lanka's first reality sports program, will be held this weekend in Panadura. Aspiring boxers who participate at the trials will have the opportunity to train with experts at a coaching camp prior to the trials. Boxers will be selected from the area for the finals of Super Fighter under 4 weight classes. And in your sports news tonight, it's cricket. A century by Indian batsman Virat Kohli guided India to a 6-wicket win over Bangladesh in the second match of the 2014 Asia Cup.
got certain players and he's got where the ball's going to spin. To even Murali. Oh, wonderful shot. Used his feet.
Bolem gets the better of the batsman and Amul has played it on. He's not. Oh, that's brilliantly done. That's a bit of a bonanza for Mushfiq. Now that's hit him on the full. He's down for the count and he's at the non-strikers and direct throw. This might just be what the doctor ordered for Mushfiq Rahim. Was batting on 97. There was only a
Put in the bat, host Bangladesh amassed a competitive 279 runs with a loss of 7 wickets in their allotted 50 overs. Skipper Mushfiqur Rahim top scored for the hosts as he reached his second one-day century. He was ably supported by Anamul Haq, who chipped in with 77 runs. Mohammad Shami was the pick of the bowlers, bagging 4 wickets. India, who commenced their chase for 280 runs for victory, got off to a steady start with Shikhar Dhawan and Rohit Sharma putting on an opening stand of 50. However, the hosts struck back, dismissing both openers in successive overs. Virat Kohli, however, steadied the Indian innings that ensured their victory.
A strange animal species was discovered on the beach of the Katchakotu Island in Kenya yesterday. Our reporter says these animals were found at about 10 o'clock last night. He added that they swam away at around 1 o'clock in the morning. Environmentalists say they can only clearly state what this animal is after determining whether it is a reptilian or fish species after closely examining the footage collected.
With that, we wrap up this edition of News First Primetime News. I'm Madhushka Balasuriya.
And I'm Nicola D'Zoiza. Thank you for joining us. Take care and good night.
Good night.
Hotline 0114-896-896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.